Okay, bear with me as I am about to go on a little bit of a rant. I'm seeing so many posts on social media these past few days, like more than usual, about fruit fear. It has me all fired up, and my heart truly hurts when I see others actually instilling fear into people and telling them that fruit is basically the devil when trying to heal. So here's my rant, okay? Throughout the centuries, fruit has been known to be one of the most healing foods available to us on this planet. In the past couple of decades, we have noticed a shift in our perception of, fruit like bananas, apples, melons, mangoes. Many people have begun to fear fruit so much that they avoid it altogether. This incredible deviation from our historical worship of fruit is due to the lies that originate from the very top of our health industries in both conventional and alternative health. If you yourself are afraid of consuming fruit, let's set the record straight on the powerful healing properties of this food and the countless critical benefits that fruit can bring you and your family, okay? Fruit is actually the most important food to eat when healing from any disease or any symptom, and yet many people are avoiding it intentionally because they have fallen prey to fruit fear. They're unaware that they are hurting their health by avoiding fruit. Three things that are happening currently and it's disturbing reality is, first, there was more fruit available to more people than ever before. And we are now able to import fruit from other countries, even during the off seasons. And most people living in the Western world have access to at least some fruit all year round. Many areas have access to an abundance of fruit, all year long as well. Something that has not been available, even a century ago before the dramatic improvements, to refrigeration and transportation systems, which, has ultimately improved the lives of millions, right? So take advantage of the access we now have to fruit in abundance, okay? Secondly, while more people around the globe have access to fresh and even organic fruit throughout the entire year, people are consuming less fruit than ever before. And this is due to the hidden agendas and misinformation that have warned us to stay away from fruit because of the sugar content. And this misleading and inaccurate testing that we also, tell someone they are fructose intolerant, and they have, heavy focus on high fat diets that are claimed to be healthy. Supermarkets have mountains of gorgeous fruit, even in the winter months. And, the customers are just passing them by because someone told them that they should be avoiding fruit. And thirdly, people are suffering from more chronic illness today than ever before. And more people are going to their doctors and their practitioners due to chronic fatigue, insomnia, brain fog, vertigo, depression, anxiety, heart palpitations, acne, all those, Lyme disease, lupus, MS, and all those other, symptoms and unexplained conditions right now. And over the past several years, fruit has been blamed for this rise in illness and symptoms. However, people are eating less fruit and getting more sick. Okay, so here are, let's just talk about this anti-fruit movement. Okay, people are intentionally trying to steer you away from eating fruit, even though fruit has been known to be, healthful and necessary for your well-being since the beginning of time. It may be difficult to believe that in those in the medical world that do not have our best interest in mind, okay? However, the medical industry is just that. It's an industry. As much as we try to think of the entire world of our healthcare as pure in motive, it's still just a business, and a massive one at that. So when money is involved, especially to the degree it is in the medical industry, motivations are skewed and greed creeps in. So if the population eats less fruit, the medical industry makes more money from the pharmaceuticals, procedures, and the care that suddenly become vastly more necessary due to the increase in chronic illness, right? So please know that I am not talking about the incredible doctors, the surgeons, and the careers that we are blessed to have, but doctors and health practitioners are of all kinds are lifesavers and compassionate healers. They are just highly intelligent people with the best intentions, and are just unfortunately trapped in an industry that runs on hidden agendas, right? Fruit, on the other hand, has very little money involved, right? It is not an industry with lobbyist interest groups and heavily funded research profiting off the illness. In fact, this is why there was very little funded science research surrounding fruit. No one wants to fund a study on bananas because there is no money in bananas, right? There's only money lost in the medical industry due to consumers eating bananas, and as a result, improving their health and having less medical dependence. And unlike pharmaceutical companies and interest groups, banana farmers do not have the money to fund their own scientific research in order to convince the public to eat more of their product. Okay? It is uncomfortable to think about science and research in this way, but it is the reality that we are dealing with that is dramatically and negatively shifting the way and types of food that people are consuming. As a result, people are now getting sicker and sicker than ever. So another major factor in the anti-fruit movement is the individuals that have been, intentionally spreading these fruit fear lies. Sadly, this misinformation is still being spread today. The internet has been crazy with the idea that avoiding fruit is the healthiest choice, that the fruit causes health problems and weight gain, and that the sugar in the fruit is the same as the sugar in cookies and candy. And in reality, there's nothing could be, further from the truth. Fruit is one of the healthiest and most healing foods available to us, and it's essential for anyone suffering with a chronic illness or symptoms. Okay? The anti-sugar movement has convinced people that cutting sugar from your diet in the form of candy, soda, frosting, is also including you need to cut out the peaches, the pineapples, and the strawberries and other fruit. The amount of work that has been put into the anti-fruit movement, unfortunately, has been rewarded, and millions of people around the world are now convinced that fruit is unhealthy. It is more than easy to fall for the idea that fruit could be dangerous, especially because, the health industries and magazines create so much confusion around the idea. And the strongest tactic an anti-fruit movement takes is fear. They scare you with poor science and calling diets with fruit incorporated in them risky. Many people are not sure on the matter and have simply decided to avoid fruit just in case is what they are currently being told is the truth. The trendy, high-fat diets of today, in particular, in this mass wave of fruit fear, is placing fruit and processed sugar in the same basket instead of understanding and differentiating between the two. Fruit contains water, minerals, vitamins, fiber, antioxidants, along with critical glucose. Okay? This is not even remotely the same as processed and damaging sugar that's found in a piece of candy or chocolate or cake or ice cream that has no nutrient value. Okay? So here's the truth about fruit. Right? The reason this issue is so important is because fruit is in fact the most important food group to consume in order to protect you and your loved ones from chronic illness and a lifetime of unnecessary suffering. Fruit not only prevents illness and slows down aging, kills off pathogens, and heals our bodies on a cellular level. When we are told to fear fruit, we are essentially being told to avoid the very thing that will bring us the most life. There is so much misinformation surrounding fruit that it's essential to debunk for the sake of yours and your family's health and well-being. Like, do your research. Fruit is also loaded with vitamin C. There are many nutrients that are not necessary for our very survival, but we need vitamin C. We cannot live without it. It's absolutely necessary in order for us to continue thriving and living, right? And, we get all of the vitamin C from the fruits available to us. Okay? Fruit is also antiviral and antibacterial. One of the biggest reasons fruit is so important to eat is because it stops pathogens in their tracks. Okay? So many people have viruses and bacteria that cause, their symptoms and conditions. In the midst of trying to heal from these conditions, fruit is our best friend because it stops these viruses and kills bacteria. When you eat fruit, it kills off the bacteria and begins to remove it from your body, right? However, fruit often gets the blame for the conditions, and when it is actually a pathogen that's taken up residence that is causing the issue, not the fruit. When people have things like SIBO, they're told to stay away from sugar, and including all fruit. And of course, sugar in the form of high fructose corn syrup should absolutely be avoided because this will definitely wreak havoc on your intestinal tract, especially if you are dealing with something like SIBO. Okay? Fruit, though, should be eaten in abundance to kill off these pathogens causing the conditions. Okay? Fruit can also stop aging. We all hear that fruit has antioxidants, but what does that mean, right? In short, it's basically fruit stops and prevents oxidation, which is the process that ages us. Okay, so additionally, fruit prevents toxic heavy metals, which we all have some in our brains from oxidizing. When toxic heavy metals oxidize, it creates a poisonous chemical that contaminates brain cells and lowers electrical impulse activity. So this oxidation process can lead to many different neurological conditions, including things like Alzheimer's, ADHD, memory loss, depression, anxiety. But wild blueberries especially help prevent this oxidation and stop the brain from rotting in response to these poisons. So fruit helps not only neurological conditions, but every single one of the thousands of symptoms and illnesses that people are, potentially suffering from. And did you know our cells run on sugar? So sugar, while it may, sound like an enemy to avoid because of our conditioning, it actually runs every single cell in our body, especially our brain. It's just a matter of having the right kind of sugar that is found in fresh fruits and high carbohydrate vegetables like, potatoes, sweet potatoes, winter squashes, right? You might have, heard that the brain is made up of mostly fat, but it's another trendy theory, but I think it's also inaccurate. In truth, the brain is actually made of stored glycogen, which is primarily glucose. Okay? When you experience things like brain fog, it typically means that your brain is not getting enough sugar to keep it running properly. So in fact, you don't have to have efficient glucose getting into your cells. You will essentially die. It's absolutely essential to keep us from going. So fat, on the other hand, is a non-essential for survival. If you try to cut out all sugars and carbohydrates from your diet entirely, your body will use up every bit of glucose in its reserves to keep you alive, but eventually you'll either not live long or you will soon cave and find yourself giving in and, eating a chocolate bar in the middle of the candy aisle before you make it to the register, or, pinching sweet potato fries from your friend while you're eating a lettuce wrap, grass-fed beef burger, or even finding yourself craving a glass of wine or a beer at the end of every day, which all contain sugar, although not the healthy kind, right? We crave sugar and sweet things for a reason. It's also critical to know every nutrient we need, it cannot be absorbed unless it's accompanied by glucose. That means that no matter how many supplements you eat or how organic or pure your food is, unless you have enough glucose to deliver the nutrients into your cells, it won't be helping you. Okay? So what happens with fruit on high-fat diets? So many people who blame fruit for pain, discomfort, or any other of the conditions or symptoms many simply have due to too much fat in their diets. This is also the case for those who think they cannot eat fruit due to their fructose intolerance, right? A high-fat diet does not necessarily mean one of the trendy diets calling itself low carb. Almost any diet can be too high in fat. In fact, the standard American diet is extremely high in fat without really meaning to be. Hamburgers, French fries, bacon, yogurt, milk, cheese, chicken breasts, oils, foods consumed regularly on the SAD diet have very high fat content. If someone is eating a low carb diet, they may not realize they are actually eating high amounts of fat. So even though, these diets claim to be high in protein, it's actually impossible to eat the high protein foods people are, told to eat without avoiding the fat. Okay? So even things like, chicken breast without the skin is still loaded with fat. And if you eat a vegetarian diet, you may still consume a great deal of dairy products like cheese, milk, yogurt, kefir, sour cream, butter, and all which are high in fat. So a high-fat vegan diet is also very common with too much consumption of, nuts, seeds, avocados, coconut, and other oils. So the reason too much fat in the diet is problematic with the fruit consumption is the reason people may not, point the finger at the fruit is that the sugar has nowhere to go. When your blood is filled up with that much fat nonstop, even the healthiest kinds, your liver becomes congested with fat cells from year after year of consuming a high-fat diet. Your liver has to exhaust itself creating the bile consumption and amount necessary to help prevent high-fat diet from hurting you. And your liver starts to break down and its reserves begin to diminish. Over time, this leads to weight gain and a whole host of other illnesses and symptoms, right? Additionally, the lining of your intestinal tract and the bottom of the stomach become lined with fat, and eventually that fat goes rancid. That fat hardens and the linings of it's, petrifying. However, the liver's bile is not strong enough to clear out the fat, so it continues to rot and stays exactly where it is, which also causes other health complications. So when you try to eat some fruit, such as an apple, the pulp, the skin, the pectin start to move the rancid fat and push it down. When this happens, you may begin to detox and purge these fats and other toxins, so possibly causing you to experience the discomfort, acne breakouts, indigestion, headaches, rashes, and some other symptoms. If you do not detox, you may still experience discomfort because you are feeling the old fat lining move out, which is not always, pleasant in the intestinal tract and your stomach. However, you cannot blame the fruit for doing what it's meant to do, which is just helping you to stay alive and heal you. You also cannot blame fruit for the discomfort caused by the fat that's still sitting in your intestinal tract for a lifetime of unknowingly or, knowingly eating a high-fat diet, which can lead to, other things like heart attacks, liver disease, diabetes, and so much more. So many people believe that they are not allowed to eat fruit because they are allergic to sugars and intolerant to fructose, right? According to, a test that they had took at the doctor's office. But, however, in this case, it is also the fat to blame and not the fruit. When old fat is, petrifying as it sits in the lining of the intestinal tract, or new fats are, constantly filling the bloodstream every day, any sugar in the fruit that you eat will be difficult to, assimilate because the sugar content cannot be absorbed past that thick layer of fat, right? So when you bring fruit back into your diet and lower your fat intake, no matter what kind of diet you subscribe to, or whether you're paleo, ketogenic, vegan, whatever diet you're doing, experience healing in the liver, and your so-called fructose intolerance can actually disappear. So fruit feeds every single one of your cells with, vitamins, nutrients, minerals, and it's no matter where your family, line is from, fruit is meant for you to consume. Fruit from all over the world provides the most amazing healing benefits that people are missing out on due to false information and fructose intolerance. So moving forward, before you believe, information someone is, about to tell you, make sure, you really think about it twice. Fruit is not the enemy. It's the exact opposite. Fruit can definitely be your savior. It can definitely help, alleviate your symptoms and help you, get past your illnesses and, experience, anti-aging. I just went over all the benefits, but the most ironic part about people, being afraid of fruit is due to the misinformation, as well as the discomfort they may experience when too much fat is in their diet. And it's the very thing that they are avoiding is what is going to make them feel better. Fruit will not make you fat. It can help you actually lose weight. Fruit does not cause you acne. It helps you heal from the bacteria that is causing the acne. Fruit does not cause indigestion. It's running into the fat lining of the interior of your intestines. Fruit does not cause diabetes. It is the fat that's blocking the sugar from getting into the cells and creating insulin resistance. Okay? Fruit does not cause brain fog. It can help you have a clear mind because your brain actually runs on sugar and is made of glucose. Okay? When it comes to fruit, there is truly nothing to be afraid of. It is your ally, it is your best friend, your healer, and your savior. No matter what diet you subscribe to, begin lowering your fat intake and start bringing more fruit into your diet every day. You can take it as slowly as you need. If you feel wonky or symptomatic, try dropping your fat intake even lower so you can bring more fruit into your body, and one step at a time, one day at a time.